I'm Nancy Showalter, and you're listening to Spirituality for the Politically Incorrect podcast. Welcome, all radical paradigm shifters and creative change makers. You who dare to create a better life and a better world. Tap into the power that resides within you and use that power for constructive change. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. I have a very special guest with me today, Linda Czaplinski, and we are going to talk about the violet flame and how you can use the violet flame during this coronavirus. Now, Linda did start her spiritual journey at an early age, kind of like I did, and as a professional, she was in the financial services industry. But she started early doing her spiritual search and found the Ascended Master Teachings. She's an ordained minister, and she has formed the alchemicalshift.com website, which is pretty exciting, and we're going to talk about that too. So, Linda, I want to welcome you today. So happy to have you here.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much for inviting me. I was really excited to get your invitation.
Very happy to have you here. So, Linda, tell us a little bit briefly about your background and how you got into this spiritual path and what you're doing with it now.
Well, okay. So as you mentioned, I started at a very early age, 12 to be exact. And it was interesting. It was when the Good News was released back in the early 70s. And my dad happened to pick up a copy of it. That was the, I'll call it the layman's version of the New Testament. It was more easily readable and understood.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why, but I went straight to the book of Revelation. And it really resonated with me. I've been raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, have a very firm religious foundation, but I just found that it didn't take me as far as I needed to go spiritually. So armed with that was really the impetus that launched my search in earnest. So I went to different churches throughout my youth and early adulthood. And then when I was in my early 30s, I became acquainted with someone who was already in the Ascended Master Teachings, shared them with me, and it was like I had found home. So I've been studying and trying to teach ever since.
That's great. And our stories are a bit similar. I was pretty young too. I always joke I was born with a mission because I always felt like there was something I was supposed to do all along. But we really do want to focus today on the violet flame, and I know that you are focusing on the violet flame a lot, and I have too in previous episodes. So that's why I wanted to talk about it, because there are great applications for what we're going through right now, what everybody's going through at the moment.
Absolutely.
So the alchemicalshift.com does talk about that magnificent alchemy, which includes the violet flame. So tell us a little bit about the violet flame, as you talk about it and you share about it on your website and how you're applying it.
Happy to do that. So for people that do go to the website, Nancy, I'll just mention that there is a specific link. There is a page that goes into the violet flame in a little bit more granularity. But just to quickly recap here, I like to refer to it as God's cosmic eraser. We're taught that the violet flame can literally go in and erase, as if it never existed, anything that is not wholly aligned with the light of God. And it can go back to the very beginning of the soul's memory. And it can actually go into things that may not be in the fore of our conscious mind. So when I apply it in other venues outside of COVID, which we're talking about, I invite people to allow themselves just to flow with the violet flame and take it and go wherever it leads them, because they may be transmuting things that they hadn't even thought were there. So we can do this on a personal level, on a family level, on a planetary level. It's within our authority as children of light to go forth with the spiritual tools given with us and clean up the planet, if you will, and make it a better place for all of us.
Right. And the violet flame, as you're saying, has so many applications, from the personal all the way to the planetary. In an intergalactic, for that matter, you could put that violet flame out in the whole universe. It is God's cosmic eraser. I love to call it that too. That's really cool. And I think on a personal level, we can talk a little bit about how we know this is not our first time around on this planet. And
Right.
so we know that we do have unresolved energies, not just from our early life here, but from past lives. And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't always, as you say, we're not conscious always of those patterns. But that's what's so cool about the violet flame. Talk a little bit about that, how it can actually go into those memories.
Well, because to your point, having lived before, and God in his mercy closes the portal to certain memories at birth, because chances are we're here because we've done some things that have not been very nice. We're looking to transcend those things. So it's not always in our best interest to have those things in our conscious mind in this embodiment, but they do lurk in the shadows, right? And can influence our behaviors, our fears. So let's say, just as a quick thing that comes to mind, let's say that I was a World War II pilot, okay, but I've re-embodied. If my plane crashed, I might have an inordinate fear of flying, but for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
can take the violet flame and I can send it into that fear. And I don't have to know what the source of the fear is. God may choose to or not to reveal it to me, but even just sending it into that fear, I can call upon the violet flame to go back to its origin and erase it as if it was never there.
Right. And I always talk about those memories just so everything is energy. And
Yeah.
a memory, even good or bad memory, but especially a negative memory, a fear, whatever as we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, that's just energy locked into a pattern. That's all.
Yeah. Yes.
It's nothing more than that. And that's why the violet flame, which is a very high frequency, a spiritual energy, can transmute and free that energy. The violet
Mm-hmm.
flame is the flame of freedom. And
Yes.
so that's what's kind of really exciting about the use of the violet flame on a personal level. We don't, a lot of people search and they want to know, what was my past life? Who was I? What did I do? What happened? And sometimes that's helpful, but many times, as you said, God wants to reveal, if it's in your best interest, your higher presence, your
Mm-hmm.
higher presence will reveal these things to you in one way or another.
Yes.
But it's not always necessary and certainly not always helpful, because you
Right.
don't want to be, there's a reason why that memory comes, is
That's
closed
right.
for
Mm-hmm.
each embodiment. And we know children who are born, and there have been some very dramatic instances of memory of their
Mm-hmm.
previous embodiment. You talked about the World War II fighter whose plane crashed, and that's the story of James Leinecke, I think his name is, that's exactly what happened to him. And as a
Oh, wow.
little tiny child, he kept having nightmares about the plane crashing, can't get out, whatever. And
Wow.
he was not resolved with that until, as a small child, he literally went to the place where his plane went down, had a little ceremony. But before that, he actually remembered the names and the people who were on his team flying,
Wow.
who were still alive. And he visited them and
Wow.
called them by name, recognized them as old men. Very phenomenal story. But eventually, as he got older, of course, he resolved it. The nightmare stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And he understood. His name was James in that previous life too.
Wow.
But as he got a little older, became 10, 12, teenager, it fades, because it's really important that we focus on what's happening now,
Yes.
not
Yes.
living in the past. You can see how some of these memories can torment us. And
Absolutely.
that's a good example of it. But there are many times, and these children, usually those memories fade, at least so dramatically. You might remember intellectually, yes, but you're not living that
Right.
energy.
You're not locked into that emotional response.
Exactly. And so it's pretty exciting of what the violet flame can actually do on a personal level. Now, you can use the violet flame also for your family, for other people. It's not a matter of, even if they don't believe in it, it's not a matter of interfering with anyone's free will. It's merely a matter of transmuting energy that is less, as you say, less than God's vibration. So, kind of exciting stuff. Talk a little bit more about how now we can apply this to the coronavirus.
Okay, well, as you talk, everything is energy, right? And energy is neither created nor destroyed. It merely changes form, right? So with violet flame, you transmute it from something that is considered negative in nature to something that's positive in nature. So where the violet flame is concerned, what I began doing with it is sending it to locate the origin, right back to the origin, but in that process to go out to, and I envision them as electronic pathways. It's a little hard to describe, but not like fingers of light, or just fingers of energy, let's say, because they're not light. But we know that COVID-19 had to begin someplace. So by taking the violet flame and sending it out into the universe to find every place that it is touched, that it has affected, whether emotionally or by causing sickness or having a person be a carrier, find that source and erase it back to the very origin of that virus, so that every bit of energy, every atom, every cell associated with that virus is just erased. And honestly, Nancy, I keep expecting, I hold the vision to wake up some morning in the very near future and watching the news and just saying and hearing our leaders say, no more corona, no more coronavirus.
And it can happen just that quickly.
Yes.
I mean, partially from the spiritual perspective, as we're talking about. And also, we know physically there's that season for flu season where those things tend to flourish in the physical, and then they die off when the season changes. Now, with the violet flame, with enough awakening and enough understanding into the collective consciousness, I really believe we can do away with a lot of these seasonal illnesses. We don't need to experience everything that we experience.
I agree.
At a physical level, but that's another topic. We can just use the violet flame. The important thing is to have enough acceleration of consciousness on the planet, because we know we're meant to move into a golden age, and we can see right now there's a lot to be transmuted and purified as we move into that golden age. We're ending one age, Piscean age, moving into the Aquarian age, which is an age of freedom. Again, the violet flame. So pretty exciting. So Linda, is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with? Any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, a couple of points. So just touching on the whole effect of COVID. So the other place I like to apply the violet flame is to remember that we're all connected also by energy, right? And we have this field, if you will, of heightened emotion, fear, doom, and gloom. And we have a collective consciousness. And very simplistically, we can all pretty much relate. When I'm with happy people, I feel happy. When I'm with negative people, I feel negative. So I try to be conscious of also using that violet flame to erase any exposure that I've had to any of those negative momentum, so that I can keep the positive energies in the fore for me. Nancy, you mentioned my website. Thank you, thealchemicalshift.com. And I invite people to please come out and peruse the website. You know, there are programs in development in other areas, but I have dedicated in the blog section 3 to the COVID series. The first one is just a short article with some calls, prayers, if you will, that people can offer. I follow that with a whole meditation to the violet flame. specifically for the transmutation around all things related to COVID-19. And then the latest one is part 3, putting on the spiritual armor of God. So not only do we use the tools to erase what's out there, but as we're cleaning up the remnants, we have the robust tools to protect ourselves, our loved ones, our nations from any further infiltration of this virus.
Absolutely. And that gift is out there, that meditation, going to your website, clicking on the blog page, and you'll see that meditation. And we invite everybody to definitely visit the website, thealchemicalshift.com, and really get centered and invoke that violet flame. Remember, the science of the spoken word is the power. So when you actually invoke it while you're meditating, visualizing, visualization is really key to our transmutation and our focus. So very, very important. And just always remember, Archangel Michael, you can call for him before you, behind, above, beneath, left, right, and circle you, your mighty I am presence in that tube of light, that ovoid of light, that circle of light around you. You can be protected. And remember, the power in you is greater than any power outside of you. Thank you so much, Linda. It's been a great pleasure having you, and great work that you're doing. Very, very lovely website. Please, everybody, visit thealchemicalshift.com. And I will see you next week. Until then, keep an open mind, a generous heart, and a powerful spirit. Thank you for being with me today, and if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, download, and comment. I'd love to hear from you, and your support is much appreciated. And don't forget, go to nancyshowalter.com to get your free electronic copy of my book, It's Okay to Be Rich, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Increased Wealth and Personal Mastery, endorsed by T. Harv Eker. And my free mini course, How to Speak Your Success, the shocking truth of how your words impact achieving your goals. I'll see you next week.